tonight. The ANC's Integrity Commission is recommending that members implicated in the VBS report step aside from all activities. Limpopo Deputy Chair Florence Radzilani and Treasurer Msiza have been implicated in a report on the looting of VBS. They failed to appear before the Integrity Commission last week. eNCA's Aldrin Sampier has been following that particular story. Aldrin, this is going to be a true test of the process of the ANC via the Integrity Commission and the extent to which whatever is done there actually manifests into tangible results. Have they explained how the recommendations of this report, of the committee rather, are going to be implemented?
Well, in the interview that I had earlier on with Jesse Duarte, he reiterated what the 54th conference of the ANC said, and this is with regards to the powers of the Integrity Commission, that the Integrity Commission has been bolstered during that conference, which means that whatever recommendation they come up with, that recommendation just has to be ratified by the NEC. The NEC doesn't really have powers to set aside the report of the Integrity Commission. And in this case, there is a report that has been compiled, and this report now relating to members of the ANC implicated in the VBS scandal will now be debated at the NEC. At the NEC this weekend on the 4th of November. But here's the thing, in the statement that was released earlier on by George Mashamba, who's the chairperson of the Integrity Commission of the ANC, he said that they've asked these members of the ANC who have been implicated to step aside. And many people have been wondering what this means, step aside, also considering that you have two other members of the ANC implicated in this scandal who are not necessarily office bearers of the party or representing the party at a government institution. And just take a listen to what Jesse Duarte had to say about defining this term, step aside.
Step aside while all the matters are being properly investigated. And that's the matter that they're putting to the ANC, NEC. The NEC has that power to request people to step aside. For instance, let me take the case of Stubun Ndebele, who was eventually found innocent. But he stood aside from the National Executive Committee, took the time to defend himself. Did a very good job of doing that, and he's got a right to do that. Everybody has a right to adequate defense. What happens, though, is that every time a person whose name is mentioned speaks on a public platform, the media will also attack them. Every time that social media attacks them, people need breathing space to go and sit down properly and defend themselves properly and correctly. And we think that's the correct thing to do.
And of course, Aldrin, the power to ask people to step aside is very different from the power to actually remove people. Yes. And it seems that that's going to be a bit of a sticking point. Gwede Mantashe also adding and weighing in on this matter, especially for those officials who don't see themselves as having done anything wrong and who are disputing even the findings of that VBS inquiry.
Remember that Msiza, for instance, he's gone to court to challenge this report. But as Gwede Mantashe has indicated before as well, that this does not necessarily deal with the criminal procedure, you know. It is all about the integrity of the party and how the integrity of the party may have been impacted by this allegation. And this is going to be a bone of contention, I think, for years to come. Because I remember at the NGC, when this issue was discussed about the powers of the Integrity Commission, it was Ace Magashule, as well as the former Premier of the Northwest, who made the argument that you cannot take away somebody's title or the position that they hold on the basis of mere allegations. That must be proven first. So the principle of innocence until proven guilty must remain. But here what we see is that the ANC has taken a different stance now with the Integrity Commission, saying that based on how our credibility has been impacted, we think you should step aside. And just to clarify in that clip as well, that does not mean that these members of the ANC lose their titles. They will still retain those titles. Msiza will still remain the provincial treasurer general. Florence will still remain the deputy chairperson of the province, and those other members of the ANC will still have their memberships. However, they will just be stepping aside while this matter is being investigated. But what happens if they do not step aside and they refuse to step aside? And just take a listen to what Gwede Mantashe had to say, the chairperson of the ANC.
Integrity Commission, if it says they must step down, they will step down. That is the organizational matter. If there are criminal issues, that is not the competence of the NEC of the ANC. It's a competence of institutions, security institutions that must deal with that aspect. It's not an organizational matter. If it's a criminal matter, it will go to the state.
If they refuse to step down, I've spoken to some of them. One of them, of the two individuals, one is saying they've not had any communication and they will not step down as they've not appeared before the Integrity Commission.
It's because you were putting the cart before the horse. You wanted to communicate a decision of the Integrity Commission before it is communicated to them.
And I wonder, Aldrin, as we wrap up, what the implications of that putting, basically the cart before the horse, what that's going to be very briefly.
And how will that pan out? Here's a statement. It was released by the Integrity Commission. That's how we got a hold of it. And if you look at the terms of reference of the Integrity Commission, it's quite clear that people who are implicated must be summoned and then appear before the Integrity Commission. Now they haven't appeared before the Integrity Commission. How will this play out? We'll have to wait and see how that NEC, the final decision that comes from the NEC with regards to this matter.
It looks like they're going to fight it right till the very end. eNCA's Aldrin St. Pierre on the latest with that particular story.